What's up, y'all? This is Mayfic Man. Hope you're doing well. I'm about to hit you with some knowledge, make your day even better on plate tectonics and continental drift theory. But before we talk about that theory, let's talk about the Earth's interior. Now, the Earth is a sphere, and all of that weight from the surface all the way to the center is being placed on the common point, the center. So, if you think about the center, and the center of the Earth is very hot, high enough temperatures to melt iron, and you're asking why is the inner core then solid, it's because of all that pressure being placed on that one center point. Kind of like the vice grips in black that I tried drawing for you to show you that there's so much pressure in all directions, it keeps the molecules really, really close together. And that affects the melting point. It makes it harder for that substance to melt. So even though that the inner core has high temperatures, high enough to melt iron, that iron stays a solid because the molecules can't move apart and then change phases. So the inner core is a solid. Moving closer to the surface of the Earth, the next layer would be the outer core. Now, some of that pressure is relieved as you get closer to the surface of the Earth. And as such, this layer is liquid. The temperatures in the outer core are high enough for the iron to melt, and because pressure is relieved, again, I tried drawing with the red vice grips, there's less pressure in that layer, so the molecules are moved apart, and that helps that layer of iron melt because the temperatures are hot enough. The molecules move apart from one another because they're not being pressurized. That allows it to melt. It affects the melting point, makes it easier for this to melt. So we have the inner core is a solid and the outer core is a liquid. The next layer moving closer to the surface is called the mantle. The mantle can be split into two distinct layers. And the upper layer has a nickname, and that is called the asthenosphere. This is going to come into play in a little bit. And then finally, we're right at the Earth's surface, and that is called the crust, also known as the lithosphere. The prefix litho means rock. So the crust is the rock. It's where we live on. There are two basic types of rock, and that is continental crust and oceanic crust. Continental crust is underneath or a continent, and oceanic crust is underneath an ocean. Now, if you remember the metaphor from the atmosphere unit, continental crust is like BLAC, and oceanic crust is like shack. Continental crust is very, 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 very buoyant compared to oceanic crust. Oceanic crust is very dense. So when those two collide, bad things are going to happen, and that's to come. Okay, moving on. Many, many moons ago, approximately 200 million years ago, we had all of our continents that were once touching that made this massive supercontinent called Pangaea. And there was a scientist, his name was Alfred Wegener. He was actually a meteorologist, and he had this idea that all these continents were once touching. Now, no one in the scientific community believed him at first, mainly because he couldn't prove anything. He had this thought, and it was probably all coincidence. So he came up with a few pieces of evidence that started to propel his theory amongst the scientific community. I mean, it didn't help that he was a meteorologist telling geologists what to do or about their profession. So the very first piece of evidence that was used to support Wegener's theory is just the continents seem to fit like a puzzle. This was the weakest piece of evidence. It could have just been a coincidence. But all these continents fit like a puzzle together. And maybe even though this was the weakest piece of evidence, it was might have been the most important because it really kind of spearheaded or springboard more research. More scientists were like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if it is a quinkydink. Well, that led to a couple other pieces of evidence, such as these mountain ranges in North America kind of lined up with the mountain ranges in Europe, suggesting that this mountain range was one continuous mountain range, meaning like this was happening. These continents were once touching, and this mountain range was a very long mountain range that spanned across in today's many different continents, but it's now separated by the Atlantic Ocean. How in the world can that be? I mean, these mountain ranges, everything lined up, like the strata lined up, which by the way are like the layers of rocks that you see in this picture on the right hand side. So that's the second piece of evidence. the mountain ranges on different continents lined up, and that was sort of weird in a good way, which sparked even more research. The third piece of evidence is called glacial deposits and markings. Now, most of Pangaea was in the southern hemisphere, and you have a majority of the landmass near the South Pole, which was really, really, really cold. So, because the continents were once touching and congregated there, it was really, really cold, and ice formed on these continents. And when you have major glaciers, they leave some really unique markings. So in present day, we're finding glacial deposits, like just rocks that are found in glaciers that when the ice melts, the rocks are left behind, and markings in these areas that today's climate have no business supporting ice. So that kind of, again, propelled more scientific research to be done. So that's our third piece of evidence. Glacial deposits and markings are found in parts of continents that in present day, have no business supporting ice. Knowing that Pangaea was congregated in the southern hemisphere, particularly at the South Pole, that kind of makes sense. And then we have fossils of plants and animals that span over separate continents, like this guy right here. And this guy had a really hard time swimming. So how in the world could he be found on South America and Africa when it's separated by the Atlantic Ocean? And you had all of these different types of fossils of animals and plants that are found across continents, separated by oceans. There's no way wind is strong enough to take seeds from this plant and move it across several oceans and land on several different continents. And then finally, we have the spreading zones. Like, for example, right here in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean is what's called the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. And what happened was we kind of figured out that when I say we, I'm talking about geologists, that you have two plates moving apart from one another underneath the ocean. And it gets very thin, like a piece of gum. You have a piece of gum in both hands and you're pulling it apart, and the middle gets thin. And when that happens, magma starts to rise up, it hits the ocean water, and instantly hardens, and you have this brand new rock. But as it's being pulled apart, so now we have the brand new rock that was formed, rock letter A, it's being pulled apart, but now you have new rock layers being formed at the center, and it's always the center. And as the A rock is being moved even further away, and even a new layer of rock, rock C, is being formed at the center. Now, that really came into play here with like, oh my gosh, now the bottom of the ocean floor is moving, and maybe the plates are moving with it. So they couldn't really figure out like the why. We had this evidence that the continents were once touching, but why? Why did the or how? How did the plates above the like how did they move? Okay, fine. You're telling me that they were once congregated in the same location called Pangaea, but how do they move? We have all this evidence that suggests that it moves, but how did it move? And it's convection in the asthenosphere. So you have all this hot rock in the asthenosphere, and it rises. And when it rises, it hits the lithosphere above it, and it kind of pushes it, and it moves it. And as it moves, the lithosphere on top moves, and that's the theory behind how the continents drifted. Convection in the asthenosphere. This is another image of heated material in the upper parts of the mantle, which is called the asthenosphere, rises, and it gets so hot it rises because it's not dense, and it hits the bottom of the lithosphere, and it splits in all directions. And that splitting causes cracks in the lithosphere. And then that crack kind of moves this plate with it. And there you have it. That is how, that's the mechanism that they theorize as to why the plates are moving. All right, time's up. Until next time, thank you very much.